It all began on a freezing winter night. The kind of night when the city streets seemed deserted and the cold air cut through every layer of clothing. Streetlights flickered, and the wind howled as if the whole world had turned its back on the forgotten souls wandering in the dark. Among them was James, a homeless man in his 50s, wrapped in a tattered coat that had seen better days. His only true companion in life was Max, a loyal German shepherd who had been with him through hunger, loneliness, and every battle the streets could throw. To most passers-by, James was invisible, just another man discarded by society. But little did anyone know that this same man, with nothing to his name but his dog, was about to change lives forever. That night, James and Max were looking for a sheltered spot to rest when Max suddenly froze, his ears pricked and his body tense. He barked sharply, pulling James toward a dark alley. At first, James resisted, muttering to his dog to calm down. But Max tugged harder, refusing to let go. When James finally followed, what he saw made his heart lurch. There, lying on the cold pavement, was a young woman in a police officer's uniform. Her breaths were shallow, her face pale, and blood seeped from a wound in her side. She looked as if life itself was slipping away from her body. James dropped to his knees beside her, panic rising in his chest. He had no phone, no way to call for help. His hands trembled as he pressed against the wound, trying desperately to stop the bleeding. The officer's lips moved faintly. She whispered her name, Sarah. Her voice cracked as she tried to speak, but James told her to save her strength. Max barked into the night, as though demanding the world to notice, his howls echoing through the alley. For the first time in years, James felt a surge of purpose. This woman's life depended on him. He tore off his old coat and pressed it firmly against Sarah's wound. Blood stained his hands, but he didn't stop. He called out for help with everything he had in him, his voice raw and desperate. Minutes felt like hours. Finally, headlights flashed at the end of the alley. 2 officers rushed in, their faces going pale at the sight of their colleague lying on the ground with a homeless man holding her wound. They hesitated for a moment, unsure of what they were witnessing. But then they saw James's eyes filled not with guilt or malice, but with sheer determination to save Sarah's life. Paramedics soon arrived. As they lifted Sarah onto the stretcher, James's hands shook uncontrollably. He looked down at Max, who leaned against his leg, as if assuring him that he had done the right thing. One of the officers placed a hand on James's shoulder, whispering a quiet thank you. But James, overwhelmed, only nodded and stepped back into the shadows. He never sought recognition. He had only wanted to save her. At the hospital, Sarah's life hung by a thread. The doctors fought through the night, and the police station held its breath. Word spread quickly about the homeless man and his dog, who had kept Sarah alive long enough to be rescued. Some officers were skeptical, while others were ashamed. Many of them had passed by James countless times, never offering a second glance. Yet, when it mattered most, he had given everything he could. The next morning, Sarah opened her eyes. Weak, but alive. Her first words were about the man and his dog who had refused to leave her side. She asked for him, wanted to thank him, but no one knew where James had gone. He had slipped away quietly, as if afraid that his place among society was only in the shadows. But fate was not done with James. A week later, a police patrol found him sitting under a bridge, Max by his side. They brought him to the station, not as a criminal, but as a guest. When Sarah saw him, tears filled her eyes. She reached out her hand, still weak from recovery, and whispered, "You saved my life. You're my hero." James lowered his gaze, ashamed of his ragged clothes, but she lifted his chin and smiled. At that moment, James felt something he hadn't felt in years: dignity, belonging, and worth. The story spread through the entire police force, then through the city. Donations poured in. People offered food, clothes, and even shelter for James and Max. For the first time, he wasn't invisible. But more than that, Sarah herself fought for him. She reminded everyone that a uniform or a badge doesn't define bravery, actions do. She convinced the department to help James rebuild his life. With their support, he found a small apartment, clean clothes, and even a job assisting with the canine unit, where Max became a beloved presence. It wasn't an easy journey. James battled years of trauma, addiction, and mistrust of others. But with Sarah's encouragement and the bond he shared with Max, he began to heal. The city that once ignored him now saw him as a man of courage. His story became a reminder to the officers and the community alike. Compassion and heroism can come from the most unexpected places. By the end of it all, James often reflected on that freezing night. He realized that life had given him a second chance, not just for himself, but to show the world that no one is ever too broken, too forgotten, or too lost to make a difference. Sarah called him her guardian angel, but James always said it was Max who found her. Together, they had saved not just a life, but also restored hope in humanity. And so, the homeless man and his dog, once overlooked and cast aside, became symbols of loyalty, bravery, and the power of kindness. Their story lived on in the hearts of everyone who heard it, reminding us all that heroes can be found where we least expect them.